So you
This is the Gashouse Gang from KMOX, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, Game Day Men's Health with Bernie Miklasz in St. Louis. I'm Tom Ackerman in Jupiter, Florida. What's going on, buddy? So we were talking backstage. What did you want to say?
Oh, no. There was more. It was more of a personal note.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's all good though. Nothing negative.
We'll talk about it at 12:45. What's going on, man? So I was just over at the spring breakout game. A couple of highlights. Quinn Matthews fastball hitting about 94 consistently, and man, that guy just throws strikes. And then Nathan Church just threw a runner out at home, threw a cannon from the outfield. He's a nice looking player. They've actually been keeping him around with the regular club, and just a matter of time before he gets reassigned. But yeah, he's a nice player. So Chaim Bloom sitting to my left. John Mozeliak was down by the dugout and went upstairs. I think he was getting ready to do some TV with Chip and Stefan, and really a nice game. It was nice. I mean, honestly, it's for me, the ability to see Quinn Matthews pitch at Roger Dean in person, because by the time I got here, he was already being sent out.
Yeah, he's exciting, and there's some things to really like in terms of anticipating the emergence of some younger players. Victor Scott in center field, one would hope. Quinn Matthews for sure. It's just a matter of time when he'll be a Cardinal in 2025. Some of the other young arms that have been on display this spring training, seeing the potential of a Ivan Herrera in spring training, and some other younger players that have looked good in spring training. And I know we're going to get into the offense, but one of the most wonderful things about spring training, and this has always been the case, is that you not only get to kind of check out the team as it is right now going into the new season, but you get a preview of coming attractions in the form of a dude like Quinn Matthews and others, so that's fun. That part's fun. It really is.
Just posting both our show right now, which you can watch on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, all over the place. So I just made sure that it got out there on my account. And at the same time, I'm sitting here. I'm going to be glancing down at this every once in a while because they're playing right now. No score, Cards, Marlins. These prospects are in the top of the fourth. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a couple of names that you mentioned. One player that I think has been the team's best hitter so far is Ivan Herrera. I mean, he looks great. He had a triple yesterday. He ended up getting stranded at third, but he had a one-out triple. He just looks the part. Even when he makes an out, he just has that hitter's mentality. He looks locked in. Wilson Contreras is the other one. And Lars Nootbaar, to an extent. I mean, Nootbaar had an RBI triple yesterday, the only run for the Cardinals, though. And that's a concern, Bernie. I look, it's less than 2 weeks now to opening day. I'm a process guy, no question. But at some point, you have to see results. And I think that it's okay to be concerned right now about this Cardinals offense.
Yeah, and I'm what's the best way to describe myself? And I think everybody that follows me knows this. I'm kind of a spring training denier in that I try to just maintain a very even keel about developments in spring training, whether they're positive or negative. Like, in other words, I'm not going to go bananas over something negative, but I'm not also going to start putting players in Cooperstown because they've had a good spring. But spring training is all we have. So I'll say this. Here's my perspective. I'm going to wait until March the 27th to start, declaring whether the offense looks good or not. But that said, I don't blame a single soul who's concerned about this offense. The reason why, if the Cardinals had been good offensively last season, it would be like, okay, spring training, whatever, they looked good offensively last year. So not a big deal, right? But they're coming off a terrible season offensively. And so that's kind of embedded in all of us as we sort of scrutinize spring training in 2025. It's like, well, wait a minute. This offense was way down in the National League rankings in some pretty important categories. And gosh, this looks like a continuation. So I think when you're coming off an unsuccessful season offensively, and people have a lot of worries and built in already, even before spring training, about this offense. I mean, I think it's human nature, and I think it's understandable to just have some anxiety over the way they've looked so far offensively, because it has not been a very encouraging spring training to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I am absolutely on the same page as you. You know, I think the things that alarm bells start going off for me, and again, I'm not like panicking or anything. You have to see it during the regular season, but you know, when the Marlins are hitting bombs after bombs and the Cardinals are not, in a game where they lost 12-5, you know, the wind was blowing out to right and the Marlins are like, yeah, bam, bam, you know, and the Cardinals are not doing that. Or the Mets were doing that on Monday night in Port St. Lucie. Granted, they have Juan Soto and nobody else does. But I think to that point, you know, the Cardinals don't really have, outside of Contreras, they don't have that one guy you say, yeah, he'll be fine. You know, even Arenado. I mean, Arenado last year was not good. And I think that his bat speed is up, the exit velocity is up. While the numbers don't show it, I think you can pretty much expect Arenado to be better, but you can't guarantee it. I can almost guarantee you Contreras is going to be good. You know, he has that track record. Here's the other thing, Bernie. This is their third hitting coach. So there's for a lot of these guys. So there's a reason why they have Brant Brown here. There was enough concern that they have to reteach a lot of things and change the philosophy. I like the things that I'm hearing. And again, I will wait, but my radar is up, let's say, a little bit about this offense. I was kind of hoping maybe for a little bit more.
Yeah, and I've got some questions, you know, one or two that stand out, like on my YouTube channel in the comments. And people are wondering, you know, is the new coach making any difference? And so I want to emphasize, people aren't ripping Brant Brown, but they're hoping that his arrival will produce results. And I would say, you know, it's just, to put it mildly, it's way too premature to declare anything about Brant Brown. We just have to wait till the regular season, and we have to see how they get out of the gate and then how they progress offensively after that. Or will they stall out again? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's so much there that we have to think about, a lot to think about, but I'm certainly not going to write off the possibility of the Cardinals having a solid offense this coming season. You know, I'll probably get trashed for this, but I'm pretty pragmatic, as you know. And listen, there's a lot of hitters that have to prove that they're better than they showed last year, or they can sustain their performance over a full season. But as bad as it's been, for example, for Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker this spring, man, you don't have to go back 5 or 6 years to see signs that they know how to hit in the big leagues. You just go back to 2023. We saw Alec Burleson, you know, have 4.5 outstanding months last year, and then he faded. We have seen Brendan Donovan is a really good major league hitter, give you a high on base, give you some power. When Lars Nootbaar is healthy, he's been a good major league hitter, above average for sure, wonderful walk rate, really good on base skills, some power. We know Contreras can hit. We know that Herrera looks to be a natural born hitter. We know that Mason Wynn, yeah, there were some holes in his batting profile last year, but all in all, you had to be really happy with his regular season as a rookie last year. And I know I'm leaving some people out, but my point is, and by the way, I'm in this group. We spend so much time looking at sort of the negatives in the track record. I just think before there's any real baseball played, I think it's important to note that you can look at just about everyone that will be prominent in this lineup, and you can see evidence that, hey, if they do what they're capable of doing, this could be a good offense. I'm not predicting it will be. See, some people will twist it around what I'm saying. Oh, Bernie's in the tank. No. I'm just looking at track records, and we can see the good and the bad. If enough of the good in these track records prevails, I think they'll be fine offensively. I'm not saying great, but I think they'll be fine. But you got to prove it, man, especially after the last couple of years on offense. Cardinals 11th. If you go 2 years, 23 and 24, Cardinals 11th in the National League in offense over those 2 years as far as runs scored. So you got to prove it. You got to prove it. It's as simple as that.
Go ahead and comment on YouTube and on Facebook. And before we change the subject, Bernie, about offense, let's pop a couple of them up there. Mark Norton said, results
Sure.
aside, this is from Facebook, which guys are hitting the ball hard, barrel rates, et cetera? Is that info available? It is. I don't know that right this second that you and I have that in front of us, but I can tell you just from memory, Contreras has the hardest hit barrel rate also, I do believe. Donovan's barrel rate is pretty high up there, I think. The highest I saw was Contreras at 114, Arenado at 108. They do have, Scott's hitting the ball really well, but I don't want to sit there and guess, but there are some good ones. Herrera, there are some good ones up there right now. And, Gorman, when he gets a one to hit and hammers it, can hit the ball with authority, but he's just not getting enough of those, Bernie.
No doubt. I thought that early on, the one of the most encouraging things coming out of spring training, and I don't know that this is still true, and I have to go try to find this stuff, and it's time consuming. And our colleague and friend Kevin Wheeler pulled up a lot of numbers, but he had to go game by game, which I appreciate that he did that. But it's kind of time consuming, at least based on my experience, to try to get full spring training stats on some of the StatCast stuff. I'm sure there's a way. I just haven't found it yet because I haven't put much time in it yet. But no, I think there's some good signs that way too. But man, there's just, you'd like to see Mason Wingett going, man. Spring training or not, 086 with a 29% strikeout rate's not good. It's not a good look. And we can name, Gorman, you mentioned him. Walker's had a rough spring. He's been out 10, 11 days. I guess he's going to return this weekend. He wasn't hitting before then. But see, this is a good example of why I don't get bent out of shape about spring training stats. I'm looking at my page here, my notes here, and Brendan Donovan's hitting 120. Now, we know that Brendan Donovan's going to be a hell of a lot better than that. So it's tough. It's tough when they're coming off such two disappointing seasons in a row offensively. I don't have it in me to kind of criticize or ridicule fans who might be worried about the offense. To me, that's a natural extension after the problems they've had on this part of the team the last couple of years.
You're listening to the Gashouse Gang, watching us on YouTube. We appreciate that. Subscribe to us at KMOX Sports. Also subscribe to The Bernie Show. And while we're at it, Bernie, we are sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling.
We're getting warm weather up in here in St. Louis, Tom. We may be able to actually match Florida today in the afternoon. Some of the temperatures coming along in St. Louis. But Saliga Heating and Cooling is going to take care of the Miklasz family and St. Louis families, whether it's really cold or it's really hot. You can count on a family business that's been taking care of St. Louis families since 1927. So they take care of all of your stuff, heating and cooling. They have a wonderful maintenance program that has saved us a lot of money and given us peace of mind over the years because your equipment, the big equipment, heating and cooling, it's working great. If there's a little problem, they can fix it on the spot, adjust it on the spot. It doesn't become a big problem. And that everything's working great. And that you have that peace of mind, that everything's safe. And you're also going to save money because a maintenance program, will extend the life of your equipment. And so that is a savings. So anyway, I have nothing but great things to say about Saliga Heating and Cooling as a client over the last 16 years. And we appreciate them, and we appreciate American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. So for anybody who wants more info on any of this, sorry I'm going a little long here, go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. You'll see the phone number on your screen right now. Thank you to Saliga Heating and Cooling.
We love our sponsors, Game Day Men's Health and Saliga Heating and Cooling. Yeah, it is going to be warm, and then everyone stays safe. It's going to be stormy there in St. Louis, I understand.
It is. A lot of high winds tonight, and I haven't looked this morning, but I mean, as of last night, they were expecting some evening storms, which could be pretty strong. So we'll see.
I'm going to be heading up north about 30 miles or so to Port St. Lucie with Stephen Carey. We're going to do the Cards-Mets game tonight in Port St. Lucie, and Michael McGreevy's getting the start tonight. So always nice to see him, a terrific pitcher. I just saw Gordon Graceffo in the parking lot on the walk over here. Our studio's across the street from the ballpark, and we were just chatting. And I told him I would drop his name here on the show. He is going to go to Memphis. He's going to start. John Mozeliak made that clear yesterday. Get his innings going a little bit. And I would assume that he joins McGreevy in that very good Memphis rotation with Quinn Matthews. They have not reassigned McGreevy just yet. They still have him in the mix, which is understandable. You absolutely should, the way that he's pitching. Before I get into some bullpen talk, let me get your thoughts right now on the rotation. Matthew Liberatore, they like to leave things a little bit untied around here. So they're not like completely putting him in the bullpen yet. It feels like they're leaning that way. But Bernie, they always leave things open a little bit in case something happens. And so Liberatore still is being considered a competitor in the rotation. The rest of the rotation, I think
Yeah, and it's the same situation. And listen, Tom, I can make a decision here right now on the spot. I can do my somewhat usual thing when it comes to the notion of the Cardinals saying, well, we want to give opportunities to young players, young pitchers. I could go nuts on this again and rant and rave, but what's the point right now? I mean, that's a point. That's something that we're all going to be monitoring during the year. But listen, if their mind's made up about their rotation, the last thing that I feel like it's good for me to do, the worst thing I could do is to basically go nuts and just continue to scream and shout. And, I don't think my doctor would like that because of the blood pressure, So the Cardinals have made their decision. And I'm not saying it's the right decision. I'd like to see a couple of these young guys in the major league rotation, but it is what it is. And I have people that kind of howl about this as I do, and I'm talking about fans and thank them. But they always remind me, and they're right. I said, listen, major league teams use a lot of starting pitchers every year. And some of these young guys, like, if Libby's in the bullpen, McGreevy's in Memphis, Matthews is in Memphis or whatever, at some point there's going to be a need for them. And at some point they will get an opportunity. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. I love the idea of Liberatore getting another chance to start. I don't see it this year. I could be wrong. Because if he opens the season in the bullpen, then it's going to have to be depending on when they would try to use him as a starter. And I'm not talking about these bullpen games. I hate those things for him. Like he had 6 starts last year. 5 of them were bullpen starts. You can't judge a guy based on that, right? And one of the times he came back after he had pitched in relief the night before. So you can't judge him on that. But if he's in the bullpen too long this season before they start thinking about him as a starter, well, then he'll have to stay in Memphis and stretch out, so he can give them some innings. And it kind of complicates things. I think Chaim Bloom loves Matthew Liberatore, and I think Matthew Liberatore's time definitely will be coming as a starting pitcher in 2026. I could be wrong, but all you got to do is look at and remember that Chaim Bloom drafted Matthew Liberatore and is a huge fan of Matthew Liberatore. And I also think coming out of that Tampa Bay system, he's going to have some things that can help Libby get better, like an off-speed pitch where the Cardinals have really lacked as an organization, teaching their young pitchers really plus off-speed pitches that they can use against same-side hitters and things like that. I don't mean to get too inside baseball on you, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. So I think the best is yet to come for Matthew Liberatore. I really do. And he seems to be coming into his own in terms of maturity and confidence and all that stuff.
Oh, there's no doubt he's a very mature pitcher. I mean, I don't think there's any question. He mentally is very strong and physically looks very strong. I think that, he can handle this right now one way or the other, but at some point you got to make a call. And I do think that he is going to be a starter as good as he was as a reliever. Not right away. I think they're going to put him in the bullpen, but I think eventually, like you said, I'm going to call them the young guns: Liberatore, McGreevy, Matthews, Graceffo. Who am I leaving out? Young guns. These are the young Palante.
Yeah, Roby down the line a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Cooper Jerpy, guys like that.
Dude,
yeah,
my goodness, is he good?
Who's that? Who'd you say? Roby? Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't want to look. I don't like to hype guys up too much. This isn't about results, although he had 2 scoreless innings. This guy looks the part. I mean, he
Yep.
has a really nice delivery, over the top, repeatable, ball just exploding out of his hands, snapping his breaking ball, good hard fastball. So far so good based on what I saw. But anyway, the young guns. What's interesting is that this week, the two pitchers that I think most fans and us were skeptical about, and again, it's spring training, so you have to take it for what it is, but they looked really good. And I'm talking about Miles Michaelis and Steven Matz. I wouldn't tell you otherwise. The two that you leaned on didn't look good. Sonny Gray and Eric Fetty got shelled back-to-back days. And then Michaelis comes out, pitches a beauty here on Wednesday. And then yesterday, I was there. Steven Matz made the Astros look kind of silly. He looked great. So he works, really fast. I don't think anybody questions Matz's stuff and ability and athleticism. It's always about whether he can stay healthy.
It's in the Cardinals' best interest for him to have get off to a really good start, because if he can show some stability with his health issues, and that's been a chronic problem, he would be marketable at the trade deadline or even before that, and so that's why you hope that some of these guys actually will pitch well, that figure to be appealing if they pitch well on the trade market a little later on. The thing about Michaelis, and man, I hate to be like a serial Michaelis critic, like a chronic critic of Michaelis, but our friend and colleague Kevin Wheeler points out, the last two spring trainings, Miles Michaelis, like his ERAs in 23 and 24 were outstanding. So that's definitely one guy I've learned now. Like, I like to see him pitch well, but if he does, it doesn't mean that's going to carry over to the regular season, So that's why it's so tough, man. That's why I can't wait until March the 27th, because we're going to get real answers to a lot of our questions. We're not going to get all the answers in the first homestand of the season, but we're going to get answers. That's when that cycle begins. So,
yeah, it's always so different too. Although you're getting that warm weather, but it seems like they go from this warm climate up to 50s, and they freeze up there, and it's just you wait for the offense to warm up and all that stuff. So unfortunately, it's like every single year, I feel like in April, they're like, well, I need the weather to warm up, then their bats will get going. Well, you start 10 and 20 with bad offense, people are going to be howling or just not going. Let me be positive though. This bullpen's good. I mean, so yesterday I had someone who works here was like, hey, somebody just walked in, someone who's not in baseball, but was just observing, like, hey, I just saw someone walk into the clubhouse, and they said that he pitched for the Mets and they just got him. I'm like, pitch for the Mets? I'm like, Phil Maton? And right as I'm saying that, I'm handed a release that says that they got Phil Maton. I'm like, wow. So my first reaction was, wow, that's a good pitcher. I mean, maybe they're trying to be competitive in the Central. But then I thought about it, and as Mo and Oli talked about it further, it's actually to protect their younger players a little bit here. So are you buying that, Bernie, that what they're trying to do here is, not rush an O'Brien or a Roycroft or somebody like that? Maton handles high leverage situations, so they can continue to develop young pitchers at the big league level and in Memphis.
Also, he's been in the major leagues for a good long time, and he's shown over and over again that he's very durable, and he's a workhorse, and he can handle a lot of appearances and innings. And in this day and age, there's so much fuss, and I get it, about swing and miss stuff, strikeout stuff. Oh, how hard does a guy throw? I think that it's led to pitchers like Maton being undervalued, because listen, his fastball velocity last year was like 87.5 miles an hour. And, in a lot of circles now where everyone's evaluated, okay, what's his velo? What's his strikeout rate? If his strikeout rate in 2021 was in the 30s. It was like 33%. Like now he's like 23%. So you would say, oh, they got a guy who's way, way on the downside. What good is that? Well, this is what I like about him. He's reinvented himself as a pitcher. He developed a cutter. It's an effective cutter against left-handed batters. He has got a killer changeup. he's got the ninth best. I know this is gobbledygook to some people, but he's
No,
got the
I
ninth.
love
He's got
this stuff. So,
he's
yeah,
got he's got the ninth best spin rate on his curveball. And last year, his three primary pitchers, hitters batted under 200 against his three primary pitches because he's got so much movement in his stuff. But what I like about it is he's been there. He fills that Andrew Kittredge role from the standpoint. Kittredge turned out to be a guy that all the young relievers, they'd sit there in the bullpen for the first 5-6 innings or whatever. They'd talk to him. They'd ask him questions. He was like the teacher out there and offering great advice. And Phil Maton can basically inherit that role. And he's a really good guy who's got a great rep within the game. So we were saying this yesterday on Gashouse Gang. Normally I would fuss about, they signed a guy, a veteran reliever, and all he's doing is taking the spot of a young reliever. No. No. As I mentioned yesterday, and I'll mention again for people who didn't see it, the Cardinals used 20 different relievers last year. And that's in a year where their bullpen was exceptional. But one of the reasons it was exceptional is because they had guys they could bring up from the minors and do a good job for them. And so that hasn't changed. There's going to be some major league caliber relievers opening the season in Memphis. But the good news is they will be there and ready when you need them. So it's all good. I don't have a problem with – I think a guy like Phil Maton is a really good addition on a number of fronts for the Cardinals. I really do.
This is the Gashouse Gang. We're sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling and Game Day Men's Health with Bernie Miklasz. I'm Tom Ackerman. We can be found on YouTube, X, Facebook, all over the place. KMOX on replay at night so people can enjoy us in the car, and also in podcast form. We're everywhere. Apple, Spotify, you name it. Odyssey as well. Bernie, let's talk about the manager, Oli Marmol, a little bit, because this is, I think, a lot of people seeing John Mozeliak in his lame duck year, and I think some people assume that this is Oli Marmol's final year. I think that I hear a lot of that because Chaim Bloom is the new president of baseball operations, and essentially he will have the power to name any manager that he wants. But Oli, just in general here in 2025, I have two questions for you. Is he the right man for this team and this job? And number two, how would you evaluate his manager performance over the last 3 years, going backwards from last year to 23 to his winning the division in 22?
Well, this won't be a popular opinion, and that's okay. I think he is the right manager for 2025 simply because he's familiar with the personnel, and he's also familiar with all the personalities on the team. And there is a routine that the players they can expect a routine and consistency in the manager's office, and that includes his temperament, things like that. But and also the guy won 83. The Cardinals won 83 games last season for one reason, because they were exceptional in low scoring games decided by one or two runs, one run games especially. And their record based on run differential should have been 76 and 86, but he worked that bullpen exceptionally well, and that's the reason why they won 83 games. Now, the people that just won't even try to be fair about Oli Marmol will deny that and laugh and say, "Oh, that's ridiculous. He's terrible at that." No, he was really, really good at running the bullpen last year. And you know who agrees with me? Tony La Russa, who said, "Hey, that guy, man, that Oli, man, he's making all the right moves. That bullpen, it's really impressive." So that's the one thing that I think is unfortunate about Oli is because Mo hired him. And Mo hired him after abruptly and without warning firing Mike Schilt. Oli had a couple, one or two strikes against him before he even started managing for the Cardinals, because he's perceived as Mo's guy, and it's just, fans, and I'm not blaming them, man. Fans can think what they want, but they have a hard time separating Marmol from Mo. I get it.
Yeah. And
so
you just said it. You just said it in from the Schultz situation. And
right.
You know what else is interesting too? What adds on to that is what they did last year,
right?
Where they avoided the entire situation that he's in now by signing him to a contract extension. Their thought was that the heat will be off. We're a trio: DeWitt, Mozeliak, Marmol. They put the three of them out there right over here on the patio here outside the clubhouse in Jupiter and said, he's our guy. Now here we go again in the same situation.
So in 2025, listen, you asked me about, okay, 2025, what does he have to do? Or, what's going to be expected of him, that kind of thing. And once again, man, I don't hesitate to criticize Oli on stuff, and he knows it, and we have a good relationship. He's actually a really pretty cool dude in those regards, right? He knows his job's an important job in this baseball market. He really respects people that even say he's screwing something up or he's not doing a good job, and he'll talk to you about it. I like that. But they've put him in a tough spot this year because, not to rehash this, but it was going to be a reset season, young players, runway, opportunity. We're going to find out everything. Our season, remember Mo said we're going to take a step back because we need to find out about all these young pitchers and all these young hitters. Okay. The Arenado thing obviously curtailed some of that. So then Mo kind of shifted into, well, we can exceed expectations. We like our club. We think we can be a winning team. We think we can be entertainment. I mean, all that, hosting sports on a Sunday morning. So it puts Oli in a situation where, okay, is the number one objective is to do everything I can to squeeze out as many wins as possible, even if it's to the detriment of the development and the opportunity given to young players and pitchers. See, the organization kind of has put him in the middle of like this, where they're undecided about what they want in 2025. And so I don't like, what is his job? Because if he tries to maximize the win total, he may do it in a way that he's using players where maybe upstairs they're thinking, boy, he's got to give more at bats to this guy, or he's got to use this pitcher, or he's got to do this, or he's got to do that. It puts him in a really strange spot because he wants to win. Every manager wants to win every game that they possibly can. But part of his mission in 2025 is to do what he can to make sure that the young hitters, especially, but also some young pitchers, get a legitimate opportunity. So they're, pardon me for saying it again, they're like really stuck in the middle, and the guy that's really stuck in the middle is the manager of the team.
I think that people, going back to what you just said, here's Timothy just put a comment out. I think that people think that Mo is running Oli, that Oli is basically a puppet, and that Mo tells him what to do, makes the lineup, makes all decisions, and that Oli is an extension of John Mozeliak and is basically just a yes man. And that is actually not true. Just like any people who work, you and I have different opinions. Matt Pauley and I have different opinions. Steve Moore and I have different opinions. We get together, we talk about them, we discuss them. This is what goes on. They're in meetings, there are discussions, there are arguments. It's not like they hate each other. They talk. It's business. I don't even know how to explain that even more. I've
pushed back on the whole puppet thing because people have no idea what they're talking about. Oli Marmol is actually pretty different in that he and Mo have a lot of disagreements. It's very easy for me to state that as a fact. They have a lot of disagreements. Mo's not dictating lineups or pitching plans to him. And I just hate the way this kind of garbage takes root, because there's a lot to scrutinize and criticize Oli Marmol for, but to take the sort of, I would call it the lazy narrative. Oh, he's Mo's puppet. Okay, if he's Mo's puppet, I'll give you one example. There's a million of them. Let me give you one example, a very, very prominent example last year. So Jordan Walker's starting to hit and in Memphis, and they bring him up. And obviously the understanding would be that Walker would play every day, right? Oli had different ideas. Oli was just only going to use him against left-handed starters. And so Walker sat on the bench more than Mo thought. And then Mo, as he's done all along, whenever a young player needs the reps and he's not getting him in the majors, well, Mo put Walker back in Memphis in short time. So if Oli is this feckless, toothless, spineless puppet, why would, after Mozeliak promoted the organization's most important player, arguably, is at least young hitter. Why did the quote puppet defy his boss by not playing Jordan Walker every day? And by the way, I agree with Mo on this one. Walker should have been playing every day. And I had a conversation about Ozzie with this on the phone. And I said, I don't understand what you're doing here, man. And he tried to explain it. I said, listen, I appreciate that. I still don't agree, with all due respect. Does a puppet do that? I mean, people are just, and oh my gosh, there's so many other things as well. And do you really think John Mozeliak believes it's a smart idea to have a leadoff man that's got a 276 on base percentage against right-handed pitching? I mean, Mo's got his faults, but do you think for a minute that he believes that that's a really good example of lineup construction? He gives the manager leeway. So people can go with the puppet stuff. That just tells me they don't pay attention. Not close enough anyway. And you know what? One more thing.
Yeah.
And this is like a St. Louis thing, and I don't get it. Okay. If we're going to throw the puppet thing around, every manager in baseball is a puppet. You know why? Because every day before the game, hours before the game, someone from the front office is presenting information and this is the lineup that we think would work best against this pitcher. And they go back and forth and exchange ideas. Sometimes the manager agrees and he may go differently with his lineup. Sometimes the manager says, no, I feel strongly about this. And the front office guy says, okay, we're just here to help you. You use what you think is best. And thanks for looking at it. Every manager in baseball goes through that every day of the season. Even Terry Francona. Yeah, even Bruce Bochy. Okay. And Bruce Bochy even said that coming back, he actually found it really helpful to have all this stuff that they could hand him that would show you, okay, if you're in this situation, here's the best matchup. Here's the matchup you probably should avoid based on track record. Bruce Bochy thought it was wonderful. He said, oh man, he said, you give me more information to try to help me win. He said something like, what kind of jackass would I have to be to just tell those guys to get out of the office? I don't know what it is about. We're stuck in time here sometimes. And I think it's probably like that in a lot of baseball markets too. The manager's job has changed dramatically. So if you're going to call this guy a puppet, there's 29 other puppets as well. Okay. It's 2025. All right. It's not 1965. Whitey and Tony don't, they're there's not a Whitey Herzog or a Tony La Russa in the manager's office. That they represented a different era. When La Russa retired, I wrote a column that he liked, by the way, and I said Tony La Russa is the last of the Lions, and people were like, "Well, what the hell does that mean?" He's the last of the Lions because he represented the last of the old school, old breed, tough guy, powerful managers who basically called the shots, even though he did work closely with Walt and Mo. But he was the last of the Lions. So listen, man, he retired after the 2011 season with the Cardinals. It's been a long time since then. Have we not figured this out yet, that the managing job has changed dramatically over the last 10, 15 years? I don't know. See, now I got my blood pressure up again. I'll shut up now, my friend.
It's the Gashouse gang from KMOX. One of the great things about this show is that we can do that. Right. We can just sort of air it out. We don't have commercial breaks. We can just talk at length about what's going on. And that was very well said. I have, as you have, covered this team for a long time, and I've seen it change. And I've got to tell you, the technology, what's available today, not just numbers. I'm talking about what they can see, what those players are doing out there is amazing, actually. So what they are able to give the manager, the players, the coaches from the front office down is extremely valuable, and you'd be a fool not to accept that piece of paper and look at every single thing on it. Bernie, before we go, we only have a couple of minutes. I do want to say that the Billikens are playing today, and I do want people to kind of start to make their way to KMOX here. So 12:45 is pregame. We're 5 minutes away. Bob Ramsey and Earl Austin Jr. are on the call. 1 o'clock tip approximately against Loyola, and I think they can make a run here. I mean, they got it done against Davidson. Earl had a call yesterday after Swope hit a 3 from 26 feet away, and Rammer went nuts and said the Swope show. Earl goes, raise the curtain. So I texted those guys this morning on my way to the ballpark, and I said, raise the curtain.
I love it.
Time. I want to see Isaiah Swope go nuts today.
Hey, listen, SLU can win this tournament because they're the best shooting team in the conference. I mean, every metric, Ken Palm, Bart Torvik shows it. Nobody shoots the ball better than SLU. And yesterday they shot it so well that they won even after committing 14 turnovers. And that's their problem. That's the only thing that slows their offense and all that great shooting down is limiting their opportunities by giving up too many offensive rebounds and also turning the ball over. So if they can clean that up a little bit, they can win these next 2 games because they've beaten the teams that they would have to play. Well, they've beaten Loyola this year, and then they've beaten whoever they would get after that. They have a victory against VCU. So they're capable of doing this. This isn't you and I being homers. They're capable.
No, definitely not. Before we go, a word, if you would, on Saliga Heating and Cooling.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Dan Saliga is the 4th generation owner operator of the family business, and they've been taking care of St. Louisans since 1927. The Saliga family taking care of all these St. Louis families. I love this. We've been a member of the Saliga family as far as a client for 16 years. Impeccable. Trust them entirely on everything. Their honesty shines through every time we have something for them to come look at. So I would encourage you, there's an American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning dealer. I would encourage you very much, if you're not sure who to call them 314-481-7333 or go to the site for all the info at SaligaHeatingCooling.com.
Bernie, thank you. That's Bernie Miklasz. I'm Tom Ackerman. This has been the Gashouse Gang. Get over to KMOX for SLU and Loyola next.